Here when we played for the first time.
I'm totally okay.
What's that?
Now that we have a crew on.
We don't want to show them our best stuff.
I have no idea where it is. It's the best one. I mean, we just did play it.
Just me but one. So not a St. Martin, me but one.
Eighth note, right?
And I start out playing eighth right at the beginning. I'm laying down time. Basically 5 more minutes. It's 5 more minutes of this. Start as a duo.
Welcome to the 2022 Convocation. You may be seated. Clearly, I'm not President Dudley. As some of you know, President Dudley has been under the weather the last few days, and as much as he deeply wants to be here, he decided earlier today that it was probably wisest to take an extra day or two and keep his distance for just a bit longer. I know that you'll join me in wishing him continued recovery. In the meantime, he's asked me to stand in for opening remarks and introductions this afternoon. The academic year is punctuated by ceremonies. In May, we gather on the lawn for commencement, celebrating the achievements of our students and marking their transition into a life after W&L. We then disperse and enjoy the slower pace of summer. Students travel, faculty immerse themselves in scholarship, and the staff accomplish projects all around our campus. Each of us is grateful for a change of pace, a slightly calmer town, and a bit of extra parking, I might add. And yet there's something missing, both on campus and in Lexington, something that impels us towards this moment when summer transitions into fall. Convocation, literally a calling together, marks the moment when we reassemble ourselves as a community. As students, as teachers, and as staff devoted to providing an environment in which teaching and learning can take place, our avocations, that which we are called to do, require our convocation, our coming together once again. None of us can truly be most truly who we are individually without all of us being here collectively, which is why this time of year feels so good. We're once again able to be our best selves. Convocation emphasizes and celebrates the fact that we are an academic community. We wear ceremonial regalia to signify that our distinctive academic work is important. It is the fundamental work of the university, and it unites us all. We welcome our newly arrived undergraduates and law students, and we encourage the members of the class of 2023 to make the most of their final year at Washington and Lee. The occasion is momentous enough that it calls for appropriate music, which we can also always count on the university singers to provide. This year, the university singers have been chosen as finalists for the City of Derry International Choir Festival. They are the first American choir to be chosen for this competition in its history, and I think that's worthy of a round of applause. At the festival, which takes place in late October, each choir from around the globe will showcase the music of living composers from their own country. The university singers will highlight the work of Stacey V. Gibbs and Rosephine Powell, two distinguished American composers who specialize in spirituals and gospel music. Dr. Powell will visit campus later this month, teaching the university singers how to present the music in full context, and speaking at Parents and Family Weekend. Mr. Gibbs will then work with the choir before they depart for Northern Ireland, helping the group refine their competition set, including his piece that we will hear today, Ezekiel. Ezekiel is one of Mr. Gibbs' most celebrated compositions, a double choir spiritual designed as a proper concert closer, or, in the case of our convocation, a grand opener. Professor Lynch and the university singers, take it away. I would say those other choirs have their hands full. Thank you for that to the university singers and Professor Lynch. I think it's fitting that the centerpiece of this ceremony, literally the kickoff to our academic year, be delivered by our Chief Academic Officer, Provost Lena Hill. Lena came to Washington and Lee in 2018, serving for 3 years as the Dean of the College, before being appointed to her current position as Provost in 2021. Prior to joining W&L, she was the Associate Vice President and Interim Chief Diversity Officer at the University of Iowa. She joined the faculty at Iowa in 2006 as an assistant professor of English and African American Studies. In 2011, she received the James N. Murray Faculty Award for Excellence in Undergraduate Teaching, and she was awarded tenure in 2013. She holds a bachelor's degree from Howard University and a doctorate from Yale. She received a 2-year postdoctoral fellowship at Duke University before taking her position at the University of Iowa. Hill's scholarship focuses on African American literature, primarily in the 20th century. She's the author of the 2014 book, Visualizing Blackness and the Creation of the African American Literary Tradition, as well as 2 books co-authored with her husband, Professor Michael Hill, who chairs our Africana Studies program and is the inaugural director of the Delaney Center here at W&L. Lena has also published numerous essays, chapters, and reviews, and delivered more than 50 papers and professional presentations. She serves on several national boards and committees that advance the liberal arts, including the National Humanities Alliance, the Modernism and Modernity Editorial Board, and the Steering Committee for the Consortium for Faculty Diversity. Lena is an intellectual. She's a scholar, a teacher, and a gifted administrator. She is wholly dedicated to working with our faculty to deliver an education that prepares our students to flourish after they graduate from W&L. She exemplifies all that we look for in academic leadership at Washington and Lee, and I could not be prouder to count her among my colleagues, nor more pleased to consider her a friend. Her address is entitled, "The Paths We Choose." Please join me in welcoming our very own Lena Hill.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Dean Strawn, for that kind introduction, and my thanks to President Dudley in his absence for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this evening. You look awfully good, notwithstanding the weather outside. This is really my absolute favorite time of the academic year. There is nothing quite like the return of students, faculty, and staff to campus. The buzz of preparing for new classes, the crispness on the edges of the days as opening games of seasons commence, and the many, many, many meals we share together at W&L let us know that it is time to get back to business. For our newest arrivals, the class of 2026, Convocation heralds a truly new beginning. I hope you have enjoyed the exhilaration of first-year orientation with events that have introduced you to your classmates, planted seeds that will grow into lifelong friendships, and initiated your discovery of all that W&L has to offer. To our rising sophomores and juniors, you sit with more nuanced understanding of yourself and your goals, likely facing the academic year with the adrenaline and a sense of promise that accompanies new challenges and planned triumphs. And to our seniors, your beginning is leading to a much anticipated celebratory end, the conclusion of your studies at W&L. I hope you are cherishing every moment. And to our law students, you arrived to W&L a little farther along in your educational journey, but as your first week and a half of classes has undoubtedly attested, there is still much to learn. We have each traveled very different paths to this moment where we convene as members of this community. Our first-year undergraduate students hail from 43 states and 26 countries, which means they have taken all manner of transportation to get here. And that's real because Lexington can be a difficult place to reach. But this data does little to capture the various paths you've traveled in life to arrive at this moment. The vastly different topographies, the unique cultures, the different languages, or just the really different accents. I'm sure our friends from New York are still wondering what our friends from South Carolina are saying. All of this reminds us of how our hometowns have shaped us. For many of you, your choice to attend W&L represents your first independent decision about your educational path. College is the moment when the law no longer compels you to attend school. You are here because you want to be. This is the moment when the road you travel is of your choosing. This evening, I'd like to explore what it means to be at W&L at this moment in our institution's and nation's history, where every one of you is empowered to choose your path. The choices you make will have ramifications that stretch far beyond Lexington, and I hope you face this year with a sense of excitement, anticipation, and expectant responsibility. As we prepare for a new term of classes at the 9th oldest university in the United States, I want to contemplate two Virginians who very intentionally chose paths in relation to higher education that dramatically influenced our nation and the world. In focusing on these two leaders, I'm interested in their dedication to education in the U.S. South. The South has a particular history in this country, And I would argue that we at WNL are uniquely positioned to lead the nation and the world in studying it. Now, of course, I know and respect the fact that WNL students and faculty embrace the full breadth of the liberal arts educational curricula, and I'm by no means suggesting that you all become U.S. history majors and scholars. But whether you are immersed in the study of the humanities, social science, arts, or natural sciences, I encourage you to ponder how you are preparing to contribute to, shape, and participate in broader national conversations. If you are thinking that you don't intend to engage in contemporary challenging conversations around us, remember that silence is also expressive. Before you graduate, I hope you'll take part in an event sponsored by our Director of Institutional History or our new Delaney Center, areas of campus respectively dedicated to the study of our unique history, as well as our current Southern race relations, politics, and culture. At its best, the study of history not only informs our understanding of the present, but helps us shape our future with wisdom and discernment. With this in mind, let's explore what we might call a tale of two Washingtons from Virginia by considering two journeys, one taken by George Washington and the other traveled by Booker T. Washington, and to study these to bring into focus decisions about the paths we will all choose at WNL this year. So as a scholar of African American literature and visual art, I have found repeated occasion to analyze Black writers' examination of George Washington. When I first arrived to WNL, I was really excited to receive an early print of Edward Savage's 1796 painting entitled The Washington Family, a portrait I first discovered in reference to Ralph Ellison's posthumously published novel, 3 Days Before the Shooting. Ellison engages this painting to slyly comment upon the influence enslaved African Americans possessed at the most unexpected moments in our history. Now, I'm happy to talk more about that over lunch or coffee, but to keep to the moment at hand for this evening, I want to explore what we might learn from Washington's posture toward learning from those unlike him. As the first president, he placed great importance on connecting different areas of the country, and he prioritized traveling to all 13 colonies to educate himself about the people of the new nation. The last such educational trip he took during his presidency is known as the Southern Tour, and it occurred in 1791. Washington was a Virginian, but he did not intimately know the rest of the South, and this Southern Tour was intended to rectify that. He met with dignitaries throughout his travels, but he also privileged with meeting with regular folks. As he wrote to Vice President John Adams, he sought to, quote, become better acquainted with the country's principal characters and internal circumstances, as well as to be more accessible to numbers of persons who might give him useful information and advices. Now, Washington also had political aims. He was not the most rousing speaker, nor was he a riveting writer. But standing 6'3" tall in the 18th century, he cut a striking figure. Before there was Hollywood and the paparazzi, Washington understood the importance of seeing and being seen by the people. His specially crafted carriage constructed for the journey was an early version of the Beast, the current presidential Cadillac that happens to be codenamed Stagecoach. While the Beast is essentially an 18-foot tank, rumored to have more weapons and gadgets than James Bond's Aston Martin, Washington's 18th century state-of-the-art carriage simply boasted reinforced wheels and a pretty cream color. His gleaming coach often got stuck in rough roads as he traveled forest and unpaved places and was even pulled into the river by his horses. His travel party included 8 men, 2 of whom were enslaved Black men named Giles and Paris. Washington did not shy away from taking on serious topics during his educational tour of the South. When he arrived to Georgia, he met with Governor Telfair to discuss the issue of enslaved men and women escaping to Spanish Florida. In North Carolina, he met with the Catawba Native American leaders about the lands the Continental Congress had reserved for them. Washington often slept in the homes of regular folks and valued hearing their opinions. Of course, looking back, there are several areas where we wish Washington would have adopted positions that would have realized the young country's dedication stated dedication to freedom and equality for all. Washington did, however, prioritize the importance of understanding different regional values, and this impacted his attitude toward the need for expansive opportunities for higher education. For that, we can be grateful. Now, my office in Washington Hall also boasts a picture of Booker T. Washington, a writer and leader I have researched and written about and will continue to explore with a few of you in the classroom this fall. Booker T. Washington was born enslaved on a 200-acre farm about an hour and 20 minutes from where we're sitting right now. After being freed from slavery by the Emancipation Proclamation, Booker T. Washington grew up in West Virginia and Virginia. As a young man, he set his sights on attending Hampton Normal and Agricultural Institute in Hampton, Virginia, one of the colleges established in 1868 to educate formerly enslaved men and women. Almost 100 years after George Washington took his Southern tour to learn about the South in his horse-drawn carriage, Booker T. Washington struck out alone on a 500-mile journey to seek a formal education. Whereas George Washington began his Southern tour 8 years after the conclusion of the American Revolutionary War, Booker T. journeyed to Hampton a mere 7 years after the conclusion of the Civil War. He left Malden, West Virginia in 1872 in the midst of Reconstruction, an era directed by the U.S. Congress and dedicated to giving rights to newly freed Black Americans. The passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments respectively abolished slavery, declared Black people citizens, and gave Black men the right to vote. Notwithstanding these positive advances, this was a difficult moment for Black Americans. Although slavery had ended, racism toward freedmen was high. During his long trip to Hampton, the 16-year-old Booker T. found himself denied entrance to hotels when the stagecoach he was riding stopped to let other passengers rest for the evening. He soon ran out of his meager travel funds and spent most of his journey begging rides on wagons and walking. He eventually made it to Hampton, where he excelled. Now, after graduation, Booker T. completed additional studies, taught for a few years, and then was appointed to serve as the first principal of what would become Tuskegee University in Alabama. At the age of 25, Booker T. opened the school on July 4th in 1881 with the goal of educating Black teachers who would then in turn educate the African American masses throughout the South. Booker T. became a passionate advocate for industrial education, and he traveled the nation promoting a pragmatic educational philosophy and raising funds for Tuskegee. Not much has changed in the work of a president. He also became an important formal advisor both to President Teddy Roosevelt and President Howard Taft. In 1901, Teddy Roosevelt invited him to dine at the White House, making the Tuskegee president the first Black men to be entertained at the White House. So why, you might be thinking, should we at WNL at this moment ponder the journeys of these two Virginia Washingtons and examine their impact on education in this country? Neither were perfect men. Their lives don't live up to the mythic ideals others have woven around them, but their aspirations were admirable and went far beyond themselves. The path George Washington followed on his Southern tour led him to believe in the importance of expanding higher education in the U.S. and make his 1796 gift of stock to Liberty College unsurprising. Washington believed deeply in the work colleges contributed to the nation, and WNL is a direct beneficiary. Booker T. Washington never forgot his difficult journey to Hampton, and he worked tirelessly to ensure Tuskegee and other schools would answer the call to educate diverse students. He understood that our nation's greatness depended on expanded access and a will to support excellence, no matter the race, gender, or identity of the student. His early efforts are connected directly to our current mission at WNL. These Washingtons represent our inheritance. This evening, as we prepare to begin a new academic year, we would do well to ask how the paths we choose, or for that matter, the ones we avoid, will impact others. Your decision to attend WNL may have had nothing to do with its location and connection to Southern history, but now that you are here, this will forever be the state that launches you to your next opportunity. You never know when you'll be in the room where it happens, and you may represent the sole viewpoint that understands the South. As faculty, we can continue making our classrooms places of discovery where varying viewpoints are not only welcomed, but encouraged and facilitated, sparking new ideas, as well as vigorously drilling down into old ones. We play a crucial role in teaching our students how to think rather than what to think, thereby preparing our graduates to bridge political divides that too often break down along party lines. We would do well to remember Toni Morrison's exhortation during the 1995 Convocation address she gave when I was a sophomore at Howard University almost 30 years ago. Morrison urged us to, quote, treasure the tradition of argument in the finest sense of the word, not to destroy an opponent, but to discover truth. We should all feel privileged to be here taking part in the higher education enterprise. Today, only 6.7% of the world population attends college. My morning climb from the parking lot to Washington Hall, alas, often made a little more challenging by my choice of footwear, reminds me that we're all climbing an educational hill at W&L. And notwithstanding the challenges, the climb is astonishingly rewarding. This summer, I had the good fortune of traveling a different path with members of W&L's class of 1968. These alumni graduated 2 years after W&L admitted its first Black students and almost 20 years before women were admitted as undergraduates. Suffice it to say, their experience on this hill was very different. But believe me when I tell you how deeply invested they remain in ensuring that we all lay claim to an incredible educational path at W&L that reflects the best of our current moment. Our alumni have followed many paths away from Lexington, but their love for this place continues to bring them back. I hope the same will be true for you. Now, I want to conclude by thinking poetically about this hill our paths have converged upon this evening, where you will receive a liberal arts education that develops your capacity to think freely, critically, and humanely, and to conduct yourselves with honor, integrity, and civility. Amanda Gorman's words that she shared at President Biden's inauguration at the age of 22 offer a fitting close for this occasion. Like so many of you, she is wise beyond her years, and we would do well to listen to the last lines of her inaugural poem titled, "The Hill We Climb." We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. In every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country, our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge, battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade of flame and unafraid. The new dawn believes as we free it, for there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost Hill. To help us bring this evening's program to conclusion, the University Singers will perform once again for us, this time the Washington and Lee hymn. Would you please stand? Thank you once again to the University Singers. You may remain standing. I want to close by reiterating that we are here to do very important work, which we can only do together. We are privileged to serve a noble mission at this university to which each of us makes distinctive contributions. What we do here matters, and doing it well should bring you a deep sense of satisfaction that is well-deserved. I would like to take a moment to thank the class of 1942, whose generous gift supports this convocation. And I would also like to thank our facilities and public safety staffs for their extra efforts on this occasion, especially with the weather chaos of today, and dining services for the meal that awaits us on Cannon Green. For those of you new to our community, you can never thank dining services and facilities enough to make up for what they do. With that, on behalf of President Dudley, I officially open the 2022-23 academic year. May it be a good one for each and every one of you. We are adjourned.